Welcome to live coverage of the 2021 Georgia GOP State Convention from beautiful Jekyll Island, Georgia. I'm Carolyn Ryan, and I'm with the man of the hour, Vernon Jones. Look at this.
Hello, Georgia. Welcome to our new station, WVJ GOP. What about that?
We have got a live booth, a TV studio at the booth here to be able to bring the folks at home kind of a behind-the-scenes look and all the action going on at the state convention. And we're so happy to be in your booth, Vernon.
Yeah.
This is the Jones for Georgia booth here at the convention. This is your first time at a GOP convention.
It's my first time, and I'm down here getting everybody to feel the Vern. I mean, it is amazing. A lot of people down here, Carolyn, and I am so happy to be among these Republicans who want to take back their state, who are willing to fight against the left and stand up for those Georgia values that we all embrace and hold near and dear to us. And so, I mean, it's been an honor. The amount of support has just been crazy.
Well, you say support. Look at this, you guys.
Yeah.
This crowd.
Yeah.
Show us. Are you guys feeling the Vern?
Feel the Vern.
Yeah.
We're down here getting Vern down here. We're burning. The house is burning down here.
I mean, this booth has got to be the most popular booth in the whole convention.
Absolutely.
We've got a crowd of people down here. But we're excited, and I think folks are just really excited about your message, Vernon, because you have a huge announcement that you're making this year at the convention, and it's a contract with the people of Georgia. Yeah. And we've got little pocket size. You're going to carry this in your pocket. And this is the contract with Georgia. So what is it and how does it work?
Well, first of all, Carolyn, you're right. When I start thinking about Georgians want someone who will fight for them, that will follow through, walk the walk and talk the talk. And they need some level of commitment. And this is my commitment. This is Vernon Jones' commitment of what I want to do with Georgians, a contract with Georgia on things that we believe that's important based on me going throughout Georgia, listening to Georgians, what happened with the 2020 elections, how people cut and ran on election integrity, they cut and ran on a lot of other Georgia's values, the rhinos. We were just draining the swamp here. And I'm going directly to the people, and I want to just kind of, if you don't mind, I don't know how you want to go from.
Let's go through them.
You know, we have about 5 things we want to do. It's called the contract with Georgia. First of all,
we've got it up on the screen for
we
folks
got it up on
too.
Okay, yeah, look at it on the screen. Election integrity is one of them. You know, election integrity is important. Most Georgians don't feel that this past election that there was transparency, that people felt that their vote actually counted. It felt like there was a dark cloud, rightfully so. You saw the left get involved. You saw Mark Zuckerberg get involved by donating money to the Secretary of State, several millions. You saw Stacey's law, where Stacey's, that backroom deal, that agreement was used in our election laws, which was not a part of Georgia's state statute.
Yeah.
That's an undisputed direct violation of the Georgia Constitution. And so when I look at election integrity, we need to go to the heart of the source, the Dominion machines.
Yeah.
Too many people are concerned about the Dominion machines, and we need to have a system in place that people feel comfortable with, that it's going to be transparent, and it has a process of integrity.
Wow. So what you're saying is huge there, right there,
It's
Vernon,
huge.
So if you're elected governor, the number one on your contract with Georgia is to authorize a full statewide forensic audit of the 2020 election and form a committee to immediately explore replacement of the current Dominion machines. I think that's going to resonate with folks.
Well, let me say this. You see right now the left, you even see in our own leadership here, from the governor's office to the Secretary of State's office, fighting a forensic audit. What is wrong with a forensic audit? It just goes through and makes sure it's more than just a vote count. It is actually going through to make sure the process was followed, the state statute was followed, and any irregularities, if they were there, they'll come out. If not, then people can feel like, well, wait a minute, we didn't have any issues. But until that happened, people's not going to believe it. People will not believe it. And I call on this governor, and I've called him to call a forensic audit in all 159 counties. Now, I've been saying this going back to November, but now it's more important than any other time. Not only do we do the forensic audit day one, but we want to push for a system that, again, Dominion, people don't have their confidence in it.
We got to get rid of it. And
we have to address that.
And we're going to talk more about election integrity in just a minute. So what else is on your contract with Georgia?
Well, another thing, too, when you look at Florida and some other states where they have no state income tax, obviously I've had a run of government. We want to look at what we bring in and what we can't spend what we don't have. But many Georgians have talked about either having no income tax or reduced income tax.
Wow.
I'll be pushing
You got my vote.
for a reduction, at least a reduction in the Georgia income tax.
Yeah.
Georgians deserve it. We're going to be bringing businesses here to offset that with investments and people having jobs. Give people tax breaks, and that will allow for us to have a growing and thriving community. It helps businesses, it helps grow the job market, and more importantly, it helps those small businesses and those families who have kids in school, those families who have mortgages. So that's long overdue.
That's a big one.
That's a huge
big one. And we've got Second Amendment as your third on the contract. What would you do with the Second Amendment?
Well, I'm going to cut straight to the chase. I believe in the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. We're going to be pushing not only for a constitutional carry, legislation passed in the General Assembly, but we also want to make sure that Georgia is a Second Amendment sanctuary state. That is important.
Absolutely.
We want to get to the heart. That's a huge, and that's one of my contract initiatives with Georgia.
Yeah, that's a big one. And then you've got Protect Our Children. That really goes to the heart of what we're seeing right now in so many schools with critical race theory and some of these other kind of indoctrination programs, really, that we're seeing in our schools.
Well, let me tell you, the critical race theory is based on race. As a matter of fact, they actually teach racism with that. And if you ask 10 different people what critical race theory is, you get 10 different answers.
Right.
First of all, we want to talk about history. History is important. But not where you're pitting one kid against another kid based on some liberal theory from an individual or a group. That just won't work. It is hurting our school system. So I am pushing to get rid, day one, ban critical race theory from being taught in Georgia.
Yeah, and there's so many different pseudonyms and acronyms for critical race theory. And you know what? That's what it is. It's a theory. It's subjective. So it's up for interpretation based on who's teaching it.
Exactly.
And the other thing that is under that same umbrella there is that, banning healthcare professionals from performing transgender medical procedures on minors. Wow, that is a no-brainer, but...
Let me tell you, and I'm speaking to all those folks back home, those parents, and who have kids. The left want to have your children to be able to go and have transgender operations. These are kids, these are minors, hormone injections. They don't even know their bodies are still being developed. You have to be 18 years old to vote, 21 years old to buy a pack of cigarettes, and a child would be allowed to have this type of operation? No. We would ban those type of procedures from being conducted and performed on children. There's no room for that, zero tolerance for that. And one other step too, speaking of that, when I look at female sports, Ryan, the Democrats are always talking about they support women. No, they don't, because they want to allow bio-transgender men to participate in female sport. And what about the science there? Why aren't they following the science there? And you know what? You'll never find out who's the fastest female in track and field because she's competing against someone who is a biological male. And so, no, we're going to protect female sports. It's going to be for females.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Another one on your contract with Georgia, Vernon, this one is really intriguing. The Pledge of Allegiance. What are you going to do there?
Well, let me tell you. When I grew up, like many of us, the first thing we did in my school, we gave that Pledge of Allegiance. That right then and there taught us to be patriots and to love this country. What you're seeing happening now, you are seeing teachers and officials and the left, they don't honor this country anymore. They don't want our kids to they want our kids to hate our own country.
Yeah.
No, kids need to be told and taught the importance of being a patriot, the importance of loving this country. This is the best country on earth. If you didn't think so, why are there so many people trying to come to America? Why? Because of our freedoms and our liberties and our Constitution.
And so it says, I will require, if Vernon's elected to be governor, he's going to require all public schools in Georgia to recite the Pledge of Allegiance daily. What an initiative that would be. Vernon, I'm from Iowa, and same thing. Every morning we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and it was just part of our day, and it's missing now.
Here's what's happening. Those of us with conservative values and those of us who've been patriots, we have been asleep. The left has literally started a movement that's destroying this country. They are no longer, and wanting us to no longer recognize the Constitution and all of its amendments.
Yeah.
They don't want us to honor this country. They want to defund police officers. Can you believe that? They don't want to support law enforcement. They're becoming soft on criminals and hard on law enforcement. Can you imagine right now, The police department, they're the ones who are being handcuffed, police officers. This is where the left is taking us, where even me as a man, where it's not politically correct for me to call myself a man, really?
Yeah, that's
no,
how far we've come.
The left has gone so far. You know, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I've always been conservative, but I've always been right here as a Democrat. The Democratic Party kept moving left. I don't even identify with them anymore.
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy, this is not the party of John F. Kennedy, the Democratic Party today. So I identify more with the conservative values. I was raised that way of the Republican Party, and that's why we're pushing. They have awakened a sleeping giant here in Georgia. We're fighting back.
And that kind of leads us into your next bullet point on your contract with Georgia, which is the hate crime. Because Vernon, you know, as an anchor and reporter for years, I have covered you as a legislature, in the state legislature. And just in the past session, we were talking about the hate crime bill, and that got passed. But you were pushing for a provision in the hate crime bill that ultimately didn't make it into the bill, and that was about protecting folks from political discrimination for your ideology.
Yeah, and I'm sure people at home can feel this way because, or probably feel this way, they're afraid to put a bumper sticker on, they're afraid to put a particular yard sign in their yard. The left now are attacking people based on their political ideology and their party affiliation, and that is wrong. It's our constitutional rights that are at stake here. They don't want us to support our candidate without people being subject to being attacked. I was one of those that was attacked leaving the White House when the president accepted his speech during his nomination. And I was attacked by young blacks and young whites that had Black Lives Matter t-shirts on, Antifa t-shirts on, just because of my political ideology and my party affiliation. And when I tried to amend the hate crime bill in the legislature, you know who fought me? It was the Democrats and rhinos. Rhinos were afraid, they caved into the left, and they would not allow that to be a part of a hate crime. But wait a minute, they are not only hating us, they are attacking us. And we want to set the record straight. If you attack someone, when I become governor, we pass this legislation, you are going to jail for messing with my yard sign or messing with my ideology or my party affiliation. You're going to jail.
And if you're physically harmed by somebody, I mean, and that's
happening. But that's what they do.
That's happening, absolutely.
Yeah, it's happening.
And the last one here, which I think everyone at home would be appreciative of after last summer, is the Peaceful Protest Act. What would that be if you were governor? This is on your contract with Georgia. What is it?
First of all, many of us experienced the shameful outrage from these so-called left folks, Black Lives Matter, Antifa. They came to cities around this country, including Georgia, burned businesses, attacked police officers. People have been killed. Matter of fact, in Atlanta, an 8-year-old baby girl was shot and killed in the car riding with her mother because of these riots. We believe in the Constitution. You have the right to assemble peacefully. But what you're seeing now, the police departments have been handcuffed by local politicians where they put politics over public safety. Police officers are afraid to arrest anyone, to enforce the law, to be subject to be fired or indicted, and allow these criminals just do what the hell they want to do. But we're going to stop that. We're going to have those laws. If you come in Georgia, you try to block an interstate, you're going to jail. If you come to Georgia, anywhere, and you're going to try to burn down a city, you're going to jail. We are not going to allow this type of rioting, burning of our property, including personal and government property. Look at federal courthouses. Burned, doors kicked in, police cars burned, police stations. What is that? And the left, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer, and all the Democratic Party sitting around and said nothing. That was, matter of fact, those were a number of insurrections where they actually provoked and told them to go out, interrupt people's dinner, attack them, fight them. This is coming from the left. No, that day is over now. When I become governor, we're shutting that down. I'm not afraid of the left. And I want to say that to the left. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of Stacey Abrams. I'm not afraid of the Democratic Party. There's absolutely no card you can play on me, including the race card. I'm standing up for my country, my community, I'm standing up for everybody who want to work, who want to live in a peaceful neighborhood, law enforcement officers, those who want to start their business. I mean, this is America, but they have us looking like a third world country. What the hell is this about? No, not under my watch. The buck stops here.
Well, I think this is a tremendous announcement to make. I think it's going to resonate. I mean, the fact that you're going to put down on paper, and it's signed Vernon Jones, that these are the 7 things that are really going to be at the heart of what you're going to do as a future governor, and I think that's going to resonate with folks. And I think the last time this has been done, I mean, this really hasn't been done before other than the last I can remember is Newt Gingrich, and that went
Contract
over
with
really
America.
well. It was his contract with America. So this is actually a brilliant idea, and I hope are you getting good feedback so far?
Well, yeah, and let me tell you, the heart of this is I want people to know what Vernon Jones stands for.
Right.
And I wanted to put it in writing. And I wanted to have a contract with you. These are the things that I believe, based on what I've heard, that are important to Georgians. And these are the initiatives I'm going to be fighting for. There's a lot more that needs to be done, but these are the ones I'm obviously going to focus on because it gets to the values of Georgia, Georgia's values. At the same time, it fights the left. It makes sure that we carry out and enforce the law. And Georgia's the last place you want to come to burn, crash, and kill.
Yeah.
This is important, and I want to protect children. And when you start talking about the critical race theory and teaching that, you have all these different liberals in classrooms who kids with conservative values are already being bullied. They're afraid to say how they feel and what they stand for. Teachers are penalizing them with their grades. I mean, it's a mess.
Yeah.
No, somebody's got to be for what's right, and I'm going to stand up for what's right and what I believe in. And you know, if the left can't deal with that, so be it.
You know,
I'm your worst nightmare. I'm your worst enemy.
And Vernon, first though, you have to get through Governor Kemp. So you're obviously trying to primary Governor Kemp. He's here this weekend as well at the convention. What really sets you apart from Governor Kemp, and why do you think that you'll ultimately succeed against him?
Well, let's be sure about one thing. People want someone in Georgia that will fight. Governor Kemp cut and ran on election integrity. He didn't call for a special session. He won't call for a forensic audit. He won't hold Stacey Abrams accountable. He caved into the left. He caved into Stacey Abrams. They came out with drop-off boxes, then the legislature wrote drop-off boxes in the state statute. What the world was that about? It was being afraid. I am not afraid. Georgians want somebody that would stand up. And you know what? I look at this too. This governor is the very reason why we lost 2 United States Senate seats and the president's election. And that's why we have what we have in Washington right now. We have Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and that doggone Biden, Joe Crow, Basement Biden, whatever you want to call him. And the three of them remind me of the Wizard of Oz. One has no heart, the other has no courage, and the other has no brain. And not necessarily in that order. Well, I'm honest. Yeah. And not necessarily in that order. And they're being led not by Dorothy and Toto from Kansas. They're being led by the Wicked Witch of the South, Stacey Abrams. We're going to shut that down.
Really quickly, I know you have to go. You've got a lot of people to talk to, a lot of hands to shake, but I do want to talk with you. Really, election integrity is probably one of the most important issues on the minds of the folks here at this convention.
Yes.
There was recently an open letter that was signed by like 550 delegates, GOP delegates, from across the state, and you signed that open letter as well. And that was an open letter that was essentially saying, hey, Governor Kemp, please authorize a statewide audit of the 2020 election. Folks may want to tell everyone to move on, but when your gut tells you, and you've got 330,000 missing chain of custody documents, folks have questions and they deserve answers.
Well, you just said it right. First of all, Stacey's law was used and not state law in the elections, which is undisputed violation of the Constitution. Secondly, the governor said himself there was no problems with the elections. But then he come back a few months later and signed an election bill that changed things. I thought he said there was nothing wrong with it. You can't have it both ways. And why wouldn't the governor call a special session before the runoff? Why hasn't the governor accepted my offer and others for a forensic audit? What do you have to hide? That's why you saw over 500 delegates sign that letter at this GOP convention, holding the governor accountable. And he cannot say, as the chief executive of this state, that he cannot order a forensic audit in all 159 counties. So I'm going to say it again to the governor. Governor, I'm calling on you right now to use your executive powers like you've used to go across this state to try to play catch up on what you did wrong and try to get votes back, and which is not going to happen. But why can't you call a forensic audit right now? And you won't have any more questions from me and nobody else on the election. That's all we're asking for. But you know what? If he does it, his hand's going to be all over this election.
So where do we stand right now? We've got a forensic audit that has been authorized in Fulton County. Where are we with that? And I guess there was some talk about what's going on in Arizona and this kind of spreading to other states as well.
Yeah, let me say this. Arizona's having a forensic audit. They're already seeing things that are irregular. Fulton County, those plaintiffs' attorneys, I'm glad that they filed a lawsuit for a forensic audit. The judge in Henry County allowed them to do it, and then Fulton County fought it with some motion, so another hearing is going to be held. And the judge had ruled that those ballots be in a safe and secure place. We found out last weekend there was no 24-hour security by the sheriff's department like they were supposed to be. The door was unlocked at the warehouse where these ballots are being kept.
Well, an alarm went off.
An alarm went off and twice, and nobody
gone.
responded to the alarm.
Yeah.
The police department didn't respond to the alarm.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, aren't the alarm system tied into the local law enforcement? What is going on, and why is Fulton County and others fighting this forensic audit? Why is Stacey Abrams fighting this forensic audit? Why? Because they know, with all the shenanigans that they had and all the things that they were doing, that they tampered with this election.
Yeah.
And until we get to the bottom of it, Georgians are not going to be happy, and they're going to get rid of anybody standing in their way from this forensic audit and holding or having an election system that's transparent and effective.
Yeah. Well, you've got quite a message going into the weekend. Are you excited?
Let me tell you, everybody down here is getting burned. The house is burning down.
Let's keep going. We can keep going with those.
I got another one. Oh, you about to burn something real soon?
There you go.
Not learn, but you about to burn something real soon. No, we're excited, but I'm passionate about this. I am passionate about this election. I'm passionate about Georgia. I'm passionate about Georgians. I mean, you're seeing more people here than you've seen probably in the past 20 years. I mean, you're seeing people getting involved that has never been involved ever. I mean, they may go and vote, but they're coming in their local county Republican Party. They're coming and holding those delegation meetings. They're getting involved. I mean, they're coming out of the woodworks. The left has awakened a sleeping giant, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
this is the best thing that could have happened. More people are getting involved in holding the politicians accountable, and they're letting their voices being heard. And you know, we've been the silent majority all along, but we haven't been saying a damn thing.
Yeah.
And that's why the left is taking us off the cliff. But you know what? We're calling in the special forces now. We're having men and women, young people. And I want to talk about young people too. Here's what the left is afraid of too. First of all, they're afraid of me getting the African American and other minority votes because they're conservative minorities there in the Democratic Party. They haven't trusted the Republican Party. And I understand why, because they haven't engaged them. But they know the Democratic Party is screwing them. But they know that Vernon Jones calls it as he sees it. And I'm getting their votes already. That's scaring them. The other thing that we're working on, young people's votes. The Republican Party has not done a good job recruiting young people. The left is getting them in middle school and teaching them the critical theory and all that foolishness. But young people, when I hear them talking about the young Republicans, they're young, and we keep talking about they're the future. No, they are here right now. They can vote right now.
Right.
Get them involved. Let them have a platform at the state level and at a national level. Young people care about the environment, and they care about social issues, social justice issues. But they also understand that we can do it in a way that's acceptable with our values, from Teddy Roosevelt, who was the greatest conservationist ever as a Republican, to us have an environmental agenda, to social justice issues. We can do it. Young people care about those things. Republicans aren't listening to them, and that's where I changed as a party. Let me tell you, when I came back to the grand old party, the party of abolition, I came back bringing in grand new ideas, grand new opportunities, and grand new people. We're going to grow this party, and that is what the left is afraid of, and they are trying to silence me every way they can. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution has become the campaign manager for Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams. They know that Brian cannot beat Stacey Abrams, and I can. They're trying to help him defeat me in order to cut his head off and hand it to Stacey Abrams. But you know what? That dog won't hunt and that rooster won't crow. We come in full force, Carolyn. We're going to win this election, and so goes Georgia, so goes the rest of this country.
Yeah, that's right. And I think just as a reporter, and I covered a lot of those MAGA rallies and Trump rallies, and what I was seeing on the ground is that folks really are. Yeah, we got to get Vernon some water. These lights are hot. We're almost done.
That's okay.
Vernon.
No, I'll keep going.
And these nice people back here. So
we're burning up over here. We're burning up. We're burning up.
But Vernon, what I was seeing on the ground quite a bit, and what I was
sorry, Mark Rubio moment.
Yeah. And what I was hearing is that it's not even so much about Republican versus Democrat. It's right now, people have such a yearning for God and America first, and just getting back to the basics. Will this candidate have America's interests at heart? Because what we're seeing right now, in so many regards, our politicians in power right now don't. and they're questioning rhinos, they're questioning Democrats, they're questioning, and right now it doesn't matter your political affiliation so much as, will you put America first, Georgia first? Will you put God first?
Yeah, that's what I like about President Trump. President Trump understood the importance of putting America first. And they misuse the words nationalist. You know what? They try to put a racial undertone to it. A nationalist means, you care about where you live first. We have to look out for our infrastructure here first. We have to look out for our children first. America first. Georgia first. Look at the money that the Obama administration, others, and even Joe Biden has given to foreign countries, even to study transgender initiatives. I mean, really? When we have veterans living on the bridges here, we're spending hotel bills up to $88 million for illegals. When we have people with mental challenges who are living on our streets right here in America, what about America first? And you know what? When the media and the liberal want to make an issue more of the president holding the Bible up than the church behind him burning down,
right.
Look, God is the head of my life. I'm not afraid of it. Nobody's going to keep me from saying that he died and rose on the third day so I can have everlasting life. I'm not going to back off of that. I'm not going to back off Georgia first and America first. And you know what? That is killing the left. You know what? People from the left now literally walking down the streets. They're hearing this broadcast and they're just imploding into flames because they're just so upset they can't believe this because we're coming.
Even they're feeling the burn.
They're feeling the burn. This heat is coming. This burn is coming.
Well, we appreciate you taking all that time.
Thank
I
you.
could talk to you forever. I know you're going to be speaking tomorrow,
Yes.
so we will be recording that and trying to rebroadcast that, and we'll be live here from the convention every hour at the top of the hour, so see us again at 2 o'clock. I'll have a special guest. Bernie Carrick is here.
Oh, yeah.
He has endorsed Vernon,
Yes.
and he's a big name within the party. Everyone knows Bernie. And later on tonight, I know you've got another special guest. Kim Klacik will be
Yes.
here for you
Yes.
at your party.
Yes.
So that'll be exciting as well, and hopefully one day soon we'll be hearing from another one, Mr. Trump perhaps.
Stay tuned.
Maybe soon.
You always want to hold your trump card, right?
So thank y'all so much for joining us, Vernon. Thank you so much. Good luck this weekend, and join us again at 2 o'clock live here from the 2021 Georgia State Convention.
Peace out, Georgia.
And welcome back to live coverage of the 2021 Georgia GOP State Convention from Jekyll Island, Georgia, down on the coast. And we are happy to be here, and I'm happy to be joined by Elise Tannery.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Elise is actually part of a group called Women for Vernon Jones.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes, I'm a co-chair with Debbie Dooley.
Okay, tell us about the group and how it formed and why.
So Debbie reached out to me in Vernon as well and asked if I would be interested, and I jumped to the opportunity because I've known Vernon for over 10 years. And when I heard about some of the articles that were coming out from the AJC trying to disparage his name, during this time where it's so important to know the true Vernon, I jumped at the opportunity to give my account of who the person I know and everyone that all of our acquaintances know as the most amazing patriot, and he's just such a good person.
Because you've known him for a while, or?
I've known Vernon for over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so he's known, my little girl is 11 now, but he's known her since she was a baby, and he's been a huge person involved in the community and always helped with the Christmas bike rides and all of his community activities. He's always
So Elise, are you a Georgia native?
I was born in Mississippi, but I might as well be a Georgia native because we moved to Conyers when I was 2.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you might as well be.
And Vernon ran for office in my hometown, and that's actually how we connected all those years ago in Conyers. Yeah.
So you're a mom and live
am.
in that area in the suburbs of Atlanta, and
Yes.
I guess what made you want to get involved in politics, and sort of what compels you to be drawn to this?
Well, I've always been involved in politics, but not this passionate in the past. I think at this past election cycle, it lit a fire in anyone who has a child or is just has any type of concerns for our nation. We have to stand up for our law enforcement. We have to stand up for what's right, and I believe Vernon is our guy.
Yeah.
He's always done it, and to see him stand up for President Trump in a time where people were afraid to stand up for him, and he stood up as a Democrat. It took a lot of courage.
It really did.
And that awakened my fire to reach out to him and let him know anything he needed, I would be there.
You know, you make a really good point. I think that that's kind of the pulse of the country right now, where even for folks who were just never really all that political, they just didn't really want to get involved. They were busy working their jobs and raising their families, to now, after the last year and a half, have really been awakened in a way that perhaps they never could have anticipated, which is to say, you know what, I don't recognize my country right now, and it's almost like now or never. I've got to step up, I've got to have a voice, I've got to say something. They're seeing cancel culture, they're seeing their colleagues and their friends and their family members be, you know, bashed online, they're seeing their kids, you know, wondering what they're learning in school. And I think we have, you know, Vernon said earlier, I interviewed him, it's almost like the left has awakened a sleeping giant.
They have, and it's there's so many of us around Georgia and around the country that are appreciative of Vernon for standing up in a time where a lot of us were quiet and silenced by social media or, you know, our community, and we have to all band together, because it's not Republican versus Democrat anymore. This is good versus evil, and if we don't stand up now, we're going to lose our country forever.
Yeah. As a mother, is there something, can we drill down into the specific things that worry you and that keep you up at night about where we're at? Like what do you really see as being a major issue?
Of course.
Especially too in Georgia. What do you?
Of course. Well, you know, the critical race theory, you know, teaching, I see my daughter with her friends, and I know that there's absolutely not a racist bone in any of their bodies, and to teach them to be racist is absolutely just the most awful thing we can do to our children. It taints their brains, and it makes them, pins them against one another. And also with law enforcement, I can't take my daughter to the Georgia Aquarium, and I know a lot of families feel the same way because of that rising crime and all the police absence because of early retirement. So it's affecting all of us, especially as a mother. I think parents around the whole state are terrified of what's going to continue. The Democrats take over, and this law enforcement situation gets worse. We're going to be at a huge risk for our safety.
So you think that those are two of your top issues, and probably a lot of other parents in Georgia, is education. What is my child learning in the public school system? And two, the law and order. I mean,
absolutely,
keeping your family safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, I lived in Guatemala City for a year and a half, and I remember the absence of law and order, and it was a beautiful country, but there was not, the police were not around, and I think as Americans, we've taken it for granted, and we're seeing now in the cities what happens when the police do pull back. And Vernon is such a huge law enforcement supporter, and I think he's exactly what we need to get our city and our state back on track. And the election integrity is huge.
Yeah.
And on the Capitol steps, when I was fighting with for Stop the Steal rallies, everyone around was chanting, "Where is Kemp?" And I looked to my left, and Vernon Jones was there, every rally, fighting on behalf of all Georgians, while Kemp was hiding wherever he was for all those months. And I have so much respect for him for standing up for us when no one else would.
What do you think, Elise, about the new election bill, now law, that was just signed? I know a lot of folks that I've spoken to have said, well, that's great, but a little too late, because some of those things should have been put into place prior to the 2020 election. Do you feel like, I guess, what are your thoughts on the bill, and do you think it goes far enough to secure our elections?
I think it helps, but like you said, it's a little too late. The game is over. It's time for us to band together and come back stronger now that we know that Brian Kemp allows cheating and doesn't either stop it or he just is indifferent to it. We need a fighter and someone that's going to be proactive and not allow this election to be stolen again, because our democracy is at stake here. And I know that the bill helps, but like I said, it's a little bit too late, and we have more work to do. This is not keeping it 100% secure.
So you still have questions that are unanswered about how the election was conducted, and if it was on the up and up.
Absolutely, and I personally know several people in Alpharetta that were poll watchers, and they saw things. They gave their statements, and now we're waiting for the audit and everything to come up. But everyone's going to be very surprised. Most Republicans won't be, but I think most of the state will be once all the results are out.
Yeah. You know, I interviewed Vernon the last hour at 1 o'clock, and he has this big announcement he's coming out with this weekend, which is his contract with the people of Georgia. And I actually think that's a brilliant idea, because he's kind of taking a big risk, isn't he, by putting down on paper with his signature next to it, these are the things I promise, I vow, that I will do if I'm elected. What are your thoughts on the contract, and have you had time to read it and look it over? What do you think?
Yes, I have, and I think it's, like you said, it's a huge risk. It holds him accountable, but accountability is what Georgians need right now, and it's what we have not had recently, and we need a governor who's going to be accountable, stand strong, and fight for us, not sit back and allow the Abrams and the radical left to indoctrinate our schools and continue to indoctrinate and steal our elections. We need someone who's going to fight toe-to-toe, and Vernon is that person.
Yeah.
He's not, Stacey Abrams can't win with him, and everyone knows that, and that's why they're trying to, the AJC and other media outlets are trying to help Kemp be their golden boy during this election. But the contract is huge, putting Georgia first, Second Amendment. Funny story, Vernon Jones came to an event of mine 7 years ago and had an NRA hat on, a big NRA, and people were saying, isn't he a Democrat? But he's always, and for people who don't know, he's officially a Republican.
Right, made the switch in January.
Yes, he made the switch in January, but he has always supported our Second Amendment, always spoken at NRA events, and has been a huge proponent to our Second Amendment rights.
You know what, I think it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think people, they want to see somebody who, when he was a Democrat, he was standing up for all the things that Democrats shouldn't be standing up for. So he was kind of going against the grain, no matter the consequence, for a very long time. And so I think when folks now in this day and age, when they're looking for somebody to vote for, they're looking for somebody who has a backbone and who believes in something.
Absolutely.
And if you believe in something enough to say, I'm going to come out and support the NRA as a Democrat or whatever.
Or vote for George Bush twice as a Democrat and be publicly or attempted to be publicly humiliated by Barack Obama for voting for George Bush. He never wavered in what he believed in, and that's how he is now.
Yep. So he's gonna stand up for what he truly believes and not for whatever the trend of the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is really important. Well, I thank you so much for spending some time with us. We're glad that you're here, Elise Tannery. And where can people follow you and what you're doing on social media?
You can follow me at Miss Elise Tannery on Instagram or Elise Tannery on Facebook.
Okay. Elise, thanks so much. And we're going to swap.
You.
I just saw Bernie Carrick walk by, and I want to bring Bernie in because, Elise and I were just talking about law and order, and she said as a mother, that's one thing that's a major issue for her is the safety of her family, the safety of her children. She sat back like millions of folks and watched the riots and things take place in the streets of Atlanta, specifically over the summer, and was alarmed. So Bernie, for those of you who don't know, thank you, by the way, for joining us.
Thank you.
So Bernie Carrick is the former police commissioner for New York City, and you were commissioner under Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
I was the police commissioner for Mayor Giuliani. I was the police commissioner on September 11, 2001. And before I was the police commissioner, I ran the New York City jail system, Rikers Island, for Mayor Giuliani as well. So I was there his whole 8-year term.
Yeah, what a career you've had in that amount of time in law enforcement. And you're from New York. Why are you here? What are you doing here?
I am in Georgia. I'm here at the convention to support and endorse Vernon Jones.
Oh, wow.
I think, I think he's somebody that could be governor, should be governor. I was heavily involved in the aftermath of the election with Rudy Giuliani and the legal team that looked at the election results and started investigating voter and election fraud in 6 different states, Georgia being one of them. And I can tell you, from my perspective, I was not satisfied that Governor Kemp did everything in his power to ensure integrity within the system. I was disappointed not only with the governor, but with the Secretary of State. I strongly believe that they certified a vote count that was fraudulent. And if they didn't know it, they should have.
So Bernie, a lot of people say though, well, why? What's in it for Kemp? Like, why would he want to allow or I guess indirectly endorse a fraudulent election? Wouldn't it be in his best interest as a Republican to get to the bottom of it?
Well, look, I can't speak for Governor Kemp. I can't speak for Raffinger, but what I can speak to is they went out of their way to ignore the legal team. They went out of their way to not cooperate with their legal team.
Wow. And you saw that firsthand.
I saw that firsthand.
Wow.
They refused to contact Giuliani when the mayor tried to get a hold of the governor on numerous occasions. We were trying to tell Governor Kemp what we had, what we found, what we thought. How do you have a circumstance like you had in Fulton County where there's an actual video of voter fraud, election fraud? How is the GBI not involved like the next day?
Right.
How is the governor not on top of that the next day? And then there's other things that I've looked at for Vernon Jones in Georgia with regard to law and order. Vernon Jones, in my opinion, is a major law and order candidate. Right now, you have the city of Atlanta. You have Buckhead. Buckhead is trying to break away from the city of Atlanta because of the increased crime, right? The increased shootings, these crazy car visuals that you see online all the time. You know what? That's the city of Atlanta is the mayor's job. But if the mayor fails, then it's the governor's job to take over. And the people of Atlanta are scared to death at the increases in crime, shootings, and murders.
And Bernie, right now, what our folks at home are looking at, if we could punch back to that, is, I've been an anchor and reporter my entire career, and I recently stepped away. But while I was reporting in Atlanta, I was out on the streets this past summer, and I was covering those events and the Wendy's that was burned down after that shooting. And what we're seeing here is that's Buckhead right now on screen. That's Buckhead.
That's right.
And they are going in stores. They're looting. They're breaking windows. They're just really. There was in this video. There's no audio, but there's gunshots. There's firing. Guns in the streets.
So now let me explain something. As I watch that video, I look at things like this. If Rudy Giuliani was the mayor or Rudy Giuliani was the governor, what would happen? Right? If the mayor didn't have enough cops to do his job, then the governor would send the National Guard.
And step in immediately.
The governor would send the State Patrol. The governor would send GBI. Did they do that? No, they didn't do that.
Why? They watched that burn.
Well, listen, this is, ironically, and this is what really bothers me, normally that happens in democratic cities around the country, right? Cities that are run by Democrats. They have increased shootings, increased violent crime, increased murder. Almost all the cities major urban cities run by Democrats. What happens as a result? You have lower economic income. You have lower real estate values. You have lower tourism. Atlanta should be booming. It's a gorgeous city, but it's not. And it's not because of crime, violence, shootings, and murder increases that shouldn't be. And look, I come at this from a point of experience. In 1993, when Giuliani came into New York City, think about this number now. We averaged over 2,200 murders a year. We had more murders in New York City than Atlanta, Chicago, Baltimore, Minneapolis, and Detroit combined. Okay? In 8 years, Giuliani dropped the violent crime rate by 65%. He dropped murder by 70%. And in the black communities where the violent crime was the highest, he dropped the murder rate by 80%. I could see Vernon Jones doing that because Vernon Jones, he will not back down. Vernon Jones is a fighter. Vernon Jones is not afraid to get out there in the streets and do what has to be done to get the job done. I've seen that in the last year I've known him, and I've come to know him pretty well. I have an enormous amount of respect for him. I like what he stands for, and I can tell you, in the aftermath of the election, when many Republicans cut and run, and I believe Governor Kemp did on the president, Vernon Jones did not cut and run on President Trump. In fact, Vernon Jones was one of his principal fighters out there defending President Trump and campaigning for him before the election.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
And you know, it's interesting with all the stuff. The Atlanta alone, the murder rate and the violent crime rate has skyrocketed. And the mayor of Atlanta held a press conference recently to address this. And she called it the COVID crime wave, and sort of placed the blame on, you know, the pandemic, saying that that's the reason why. But so many of us that have, that I've covered, for so long, the news in Atlanta, and also just as a resident, and things that I've experienced. Just last March, I was walking out to go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was working the morning shift, and I walked out to let my dog out real quick. I swung the door open, and there was a guy at my front, down at the bottom of the base of the stairs, and he started firing at me immediately. How he missed me is only God can explain. The bullets went all around me. They were breaking into my car, and that is so common. You see that on the Nextdoor apps and on Facebook and all these things. They're breaking in, but people say, oh, they're just jiggling handles or whatever. No, they're armed. These are a lot of the gang problem in Georgia is out of control. And, you know, I live in a nice neighborhood out in the suburbs. It's everywhere. It's Buckhead. It's the suburbs. It's, as Elise mentioned, Alpharetta. It's all over Georgia.
I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't have to be. It does not have to be. And nobody knows that better than I do. You know, when I hear people say that the crime problem's too big, it's out of control, we don't have enough staff, we don't have the resources. Well, there's a couple things I'd say right off the bat. Defunding the police is a moronic idea. It's just an idiotic idea. When you defund the police, you take away manpower, resources, equipment, and training. Everything we give the cops, that we've tried to give them over the last 30 years to reduce crime, to have de-escalation, to have cops where we don't have to use deadly physical force. Everything we've tried to give them for 30 years, you now want to take away.
Well, and guess what? Antonio Brown is the Atlanta City Councilman who was the main driving voice behind defunding the police. And now Antonio is running for mayor. And just so happens last weekend or recently, Antonio had his car stolen right in front of him on the streets of Atlanta by kids. So
well, you have to wonder if somebody like that changed his mind since, right?
Yeah.
The bottom line is the people of Atlanta and the people of Georgia are not served well by the mayor of Atlanta and by the governor of Georgia. They're just not. And I think Vernon Jones could do a much better job.
Yeah, and you've lived it, you've seen it, you've seen what works and why we wouldn't follow a measure that we know works. Real quick, go ahead.
Look, I was a cop in New York City in the mid-'80s. In the mid-'80s, when crime was the highest. I've seen it then. I've seen it when Rudy Giuliani came in and basically knocked it down, declined crime more substantially than anybody in this country, and I've seen it come back up.
Yeah.
I know how to reduce crime. I know what has to be done, and I know the leadership capabilities of those that have to do it.
Yeah, and that's what you can, obviously from that perspective, and that you're endorsing Vernon, that says a lot. I think law and order will certainly be on the top of a lot of people's minds as they head to the polls in 2022 and beyond that in 2024. So I thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it very much. And hey, we are going to have much more from the GOP State Convention coming up. Check us out again at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and then we'll be back here tomorrow for live coverage all throughout the day. We'll see you soon. Hey everybody, welcome back. I am Carolyn Ryan, and we are coming to you live once again from the 2021 Georgia GOP State Convention in beautiful Jekyll Island, Georgia, right on the coast. If you've never been here, it's gorgeous, I've got to tell you. And there's a huge turnout here almost 3,000 people. It is packed this year. There's a lot on people's minds. So folks have traveled from all across the state of Georgia to be here this weekend in Jekyll Island to get involved in politics here in Georgia. And I'm going to step out of the way. So this is an awesome convention center here in Jekyll. So this kind of goes, it loops around the hallway there, and there's booths set up lining the hallway behind me. Right now it looks a little sparse because everyone is in the ballroom and they are listening to speakers and things of that nature. And if we pan over here, two of the folks that are here this weekend to participate, these ladies I just ran into a few minutes ago. You guys are alternates or you're delegates?
We're both alternates.
Yes, we're both alternates. Yes.
Both alternates.
Yes.
But what I really wanted to talk with you guys about, and take a mini step that way because we're right in the shadow.
Sure.
First of all, tell me your names and where you're from.
I'm Paris Campbell, and I'm from Marietta.
Okay.
Cassie Chodka, and I'm from Marietta, East Cobb. We're both from East Cobb here.
Okay. So what brought you guys down here to Jekyll Island this weekend?
Well, after the November 3rd election, I was a little bit disheartened with the integrity of the election, and I've always been interested in politics, so I decided to get involved, and here I am.
Wow. And what about you?
I got tired of sitting on the couch and complaining to my friends and my sister and my other sisters and my mom, and I just decided to do something.
So what is so interesting, and I've been hearing that from people at the convention since we got here, is that right now folks have gotten involved in politics that prior to 2020, were really never all that involved. They were busy working and raising families,
right.
and all of a sudden people feel this urge to get involved. What was it? What was the sort of the tipping point for you?
I would have to say just someone who works for the government, or did. I resigned from a school district. I started to see all the inequities that were taking place, obviously on the federal level, but all the way down to the local level. And I just, I started doing some research and decided, you know what, it's my duty as a citizen. Like, I need to help protect this country.
So you were a teacher prior to this, is in the public
I
school
was in
system?
the public school system. I was actually a behavior specialist, but a teacher prior to, and I've worked in 3 school districts in the state of Georgia, 2 of the largest. So I just sort of got to the point where I recognized that, you know what, I cannot participate in this anymore. I have to separate myself. The government has, they have been drinking the power drink, and they forget that we do not work for them. They work for us, and they have forgotten that.
So you stepped away from your teaching job. How long were you a teacher?
I have been in education since 2013, but my most recent position, I was actually at a territory of schools, so I was able to see all the inequities that take place depending on where you live. Children who are not getting the same facilities, same education as other children in more affluent parts of the county, simply because it's not the way the structure works. And it was, I just couldn't participate in it anymore.
So your moral compass compelled you to step away from something, your career that you presumably love to do.
That's my passion. Yeah, working with children's my passion. So I decided God said, take the leap of faith and I'll catch you. And he caught me, and I started my own business. And now parents hire me to help educate them about the real rules and laws that go with the school system.
So real quickly, obviously a lot of people right now are talking about critical race theory, and they're talking about kids being indoctrinated and talking about what is being taught in our schools, in our public education system. But the other side of that, if you listen to certain networks, might say, well, it's kind of like the boogeyman. Does it really exist? What is critical race theory? Or is this just a right-wing talking point? As an educator, have you ever seen critical race theory or any subset of it being taught in Georgia schools?
Absolutely. It's been there for quite some time. It's interesting to me that this is sort of a new buzz topic, because for me, I'm thinking this has been going on for a very long time. I personally have seen with my own 2 eyes the 1619 project books in classrooms. I used to actually, when I was teaching, I would just shut the door and teach the real history I was not going to teach that Lyndon Baines Johnson was an American freedom fighter. I taught the truth, that he was actually, if we're going to be honest, the Great Society, which is intended to hold down minorities and make government the daddy, and so it dismantled the black family so much.
So our children are being indoctrinated?
Have been for a very long time. I have 2 children of my own, and I have to be very diligent in regards to unbrainwashing them on a very regular basis.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So you're stepping away, and I'm going to talk to you in a moment too, Cassie. So you said, I'm going to do something about this. What did you do?
I started my own business, and the goal is to empower and support parents so that they can understand what it is they need to know to be their child's advocate in their public education. There has been a very big shift in misunderstandings that parents believe that they work for the schools, and they don't. And schools have, like I said, it's a lot of government, it's all government, and it's power hungry, and parents are bullied, and children are not being served the way they're supposed to be served. And
are there other teachers like you that feel that way, or are they all sort of drinking the same Kool-Aid?
No. Teachers in general are you can't say anything because they will retaliate. If you speak up and speak your mind, they'll move you to another school that's an hour away from your home. They will intentionally give you a bad review. You can't. You can't.
You can't speak up or you're going to lose your job.
No. You won't lose your job. You cannot lose a government job. You'll cannot.
Get somewhere.
Yeah, but they'll put you in a very undesirable location and possibly switch your job title. And if you never taught math in your life, they'll put you teaching math in a school that's an hour away from your home.
What do we need to do? Give me like the top 5 bullet points. What do we need to do to improve schools in Georgia?
In the United States is my goal. We need to remove the government. The government should have this much influence in education. I think that we need to go to a competitive system, just like any other business. If you want to own a school, great. The government will fund it, and then you have to make it the best of the best. And that way, children who don't come from affluent families, just because their parents have minimum wage earning jobs and they're working all the time, that does not mean that they are not, it is not just as important for them to have an equal education and equal facilities and equal resources. So I think that taxes to schools should be abolished. Parents keep that money. That money then turns into paying for the school of their choice, and it becomes competitive.
Almost like you're saying, anytime whatever the government touches, it ends up.
They can mess up a bread sandwich. So
yeah,
they certainly have messed up education.
Yeah, it's a shame. And Cassie, so tell me your story and your journey and kind of why you're here. And
I taught school for 23 years in my life.
So two teachers.
Yeah, sisters.
Oh,
I'm there's 5 of us, but 2 of us are teachers anyway. I taught for 23 years, but I haven't taught in 5 years. I got out. It was bad. But I was sick of complaining after the November election to friends, and they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. So I said to myself, what can I do? And I started reaching out and doing the local, and then precinct. I became part of the precinct. I went to the caucus. I even put her name in. She wasn't there. She said, I just got a call. And
what'd you sign me up for?
Yeah. I said, you're a different area.
I'm so thankful she did. Yeah. So thankful.
So that's what started it. And then became alternates and just.
And here you are.
Yes, and it's amazing. And they just said in there, David Schaefer just said, we have had more people here at this convention than we've ever had.
Really?
Yeah, we've heard the membership of the GOP it's multiplying leaps and bounds every single day, more than any other time in history.
So certainly you two are not alone. There's other people here this weekend that are first-timers that are going, how do I get involved?
That's right.
Yeah, and they're all saying, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do next? What's next after this?
Why is it so important to get involved locally, your school boards, your county commissions?
Well, I personally would say with the school boards, because that's the people that are influencing my children 8 hours a day, right? And just being on the inside, and she's been on the inside as well, I saw what was going on, and it's just, there's a lot of not doing what's best for children.
And what would you guys say are like the top, 3-4 things that are important to Georgians right now?
Election integrity, critical race theory, and accountability for what just happened. I don't know if I can say any names, but they know who they are.
I want to get your guys' thoughts on what's behind you here. Have you had a chance to read this yet? So Vernon Jones, he came out with a contract for Georgia, and I'm going to step out of the photo, and it's actually his top 7 things that he's vowing to Georgians to say, if you elect me, this is what I'm going to do. And there's one on here, protect our children. As 2 teachers, as you guys read that and we zoom in on that, I want to get your thoughts on protect our children. What do you think about that?
I think it's amazing. I am a huge fan of Vernon Jones. I saw him speak in Dalton, Georgia on January 4th. I am a huge, huge advocate for Vernon Jones.
Yeah.
I think he's incredibly patriotic. I think that he believes in the Constitution and that it should be actually followed. I'm a big fan. I love this.
Yeah.
That's the most important right there. Ow.
You say that's the most important thing?
Well, yes, because as we all know, until the Dominion voting systems are removed, we can prop up election integrity as much as we want, but unfortunately, let's just say the cards are stacked against us.
No pun intended.
Exactly.
That is, yeah.
I love this.
They wouldn't have to get up in there.
Do you guys remember years and years ago, Newt Gingrich had a contract with the American people, and I don't know that it's been done since, but it was wildly successful then, because essentially you're putting your name next to something and saying, this is my vow, this is my promise, and if I don't do it, y'all can hold me to account. And if he doesn't,
He changed Georgia in the 90s.
yeah.
In the late 80s, early 90s, Newt Gingrich changed the whole political makeup of Georgia by doing exactly that.
Do you guys think there's been a lot of talk that Georgia has turned blue? Do you believe that?
Absolutely not.
No,
Under no
it's a joke.
circumstances do I believe that Georgia has turned blue, or many other states. Under no circumstances do I believe that.
Do you all support a statewide forensic audit of the 2020 election?
I'll do
Yes.
it myself. Yeah, absolutely.
Will you guys get involved in the 2022 and 2024 as poll monitors, poll watchers?
We are already signed up for it.
House District 34 is voting June 15th because
Yeah.
Burt Reeves left that position and took a job at Georgia Tech, and it's open to a Democrat or it's open to a Republican. I mean, it's a special election. They're calling it a jungle election. Yeah, and I'd never heard that before. And I'm a poll watcher, and I am excited.
Yeah, we're really excited. I mean, we've already gotten to count ballots
Yeah.
before. We've gotten pretty involved. I plan on running for school board when that election comes up in 2024, if not before.
So I'm just going to give you guys a moment. So we're streaming live right now on the Jones for Georgia YouTube channel, and other outlets may be picking this up as well. Right Side Broadcasting has expressed some interest in some others. If you guys could just look into the camera and just, if you want, say your name and what's your message, and I guess your final kind of thoughts on being here for the first time and your sense of where we're at in Georgia. I'll give it to you, and then you want to pass it to your sister.
Okay.
You can take it.
Oh.
And look straight to the camera.
Oh, my name is Paris Campbell, and I am here to get involved because I believe that our children are being given a huge disservice in the education that they are given. I want to fight for election integrity. I am the proud daughter of a very, very, very highly decorated Vietnam veteran airborne ranger. I love freedom. I love the Constitution. I love God. I love family. That's why I'm here.
And I love my little sister. And everything she just said, America first is the bottom line.
Perfect. You guys thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Have a great
That was really good. I know.
Have a great time. We'll chat in just a little bit.
Let me know the 2 seconds. That you put it down.
Okay. Guys, thank you again so much. And I'm just going to give you one last look. We'll pan over here. She had said inside, David Schaefer, the chair of the GOP here in Georgia, just said that this is the highest attendance that they have had for a convention to date. So there's a lot of folks. Obviously right now, a lot of people are inside the ballroom, so you're not seeing a full crowd, but there are a lot of Georgians getting involved in politics for the very first time. A lot of people are feeling frustrated with what they're seeing around them, but so far here, there's just been a sense of, although they have such frustrations, everybody here so far that I've interviewed and spoken with have been very, very positive, a very just pro-Georgia, pro-America, pro-God type of sentiment here. Everybody is just super excited and enthused to get involved, and it's nice to be around so many folks just who are patriotic and here to just get involved. You heard the two ladies there speaking about from a local perspective that how important it was for them to get involved, and then one of them, as you heard, stepped away from her job, a job she loved teaching, because she just couldn't stomach what was going on, what was being taught, and the state of our school system in Georgia. And so she decided, you know what, I'm going to get involved and be an agent of change and try to run for school board, she said, in 2024. And that certainly is a sentiment we're hearing from a lot of folks here in Georgia, down in Jekyll Island. We want to thank you for joining us today for our coverage on the YouTube channel here. We're going to be back tomorrow covering day 2. So if you couldn't be down here yourself at the convention, we'll bring you all the behind the scenes action from our live TV studio here. Join us tomorrow afternoon. All the big speeches go on tomorrow, and we'll have live coverage throughout the day. We'll see you then. I'm Carolyn Ryan. Thanks for joining us.